Hello and welcome, this is rooflemonger, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Street Fighter V Season 5 and the inevitable Street Fighter 6 and how the two apparently are inextricably linked. So this news comes to us by one Aesthetic Gamer, aka Dust Golem, who is known to be a credible leaker in the video game industry circles. And the crux of the issue here is apparently Street Fighter V Season 5 only exists because Street Fighter 6, which is being worked on, and I guess that's pretty much an open secret, right? But Street Fighter 6 was falling apart at the seams. Now, myself, personally, I originally took Street Fighter V Season 5 as, well, COVID kind of caused a lot of issues with Street Fighter 6 development, and hey, we're basically buying time, right? And makes sense enough, you know, that's basically the route that Guilty Gear Strive is going, because they had to delay the game due to the issues going on. And it turns out it is actually more complex than that with regards to Street Fighter 6. So first up here, let's go over Aesthetic Gamer's stance on the situation. Once again, known leaker, apparently very credible leaker. As Capcom is trending for Street Fighter stuff, though I'm not really a Street Fighter fan, I can mention I know the reason for the unexpected Street Fighter V Season Pass. The most basic gist of it is Street Fighter 6 was supposed to release next year, but it was not received well internally or with testers. There's this team mechanic the game was too focused on, and the director, who was Ino, but he means Ono-san, got demoted again, and someone else was put in charge to quote-unquote fix Street Fighter 6 with an additional year of development, and the new season pass is to buy time for that. Which, to personally add myself here, I did figure the Season 5 pass was to buy time, although this is definitely not where I thought it was going. Goes on to say there's a bit more to it, but I know talking about this stuff makes people to ask you about it. And I really don't care that much about fighting games, though my brother loves them. For what it's worth, I've heard the extra year and new director/fixes and direction they've taken with it has been doing wonders. Finishing off to say, I typed Ino, I meant Ono. He was the director for Street Fighter 6, but the game didn't come out good. The new director I don't know much about, but I hear she's pretty well known in the fighting game community, brought up some really cool ideas to fix the game with what was there. Now, with all that said, there is a lot to unpack on that. So first up here, Ono-san. True, he was quote-unquote promoted away from Street Fighter, which is basically a demotion. He is now head of esports, and he is executive producer of esports at Capcom. That change was made effective as of April 1st of this year, so that's when that happened. So if he was indeed working on Street Fighter 6 as of April 1st when the job title change is over, definitely not anymore. As for the person who took over, I can't say for sure. The only guess I have is one Midori Yuasa, who basically inherited Ono-san's job profile after all the switch-ups happened in April of this year, and I'll post a link to that in the video description as well. Now, talking about this alleged team mechanic. Now, in a mainline numbered Street Fighter game, sight unseen, I would be completely opposed to a team mechanic. I like team games, sure, like, hey, Dragon Ball Fighters, right? But for a mainline, not like Street Fighter, big old 6 in front of it, no, I would never want team stuff. Especially because outside of the proper versus games, Marvel versus, all that kind of stuff, Capcom has experimented with team stuff in the past, and it's been very iffy. We had games like Capcom Fighting Evolution, also sometimes known as Capcom Fighting Jam, depending on the territory, and that was a pick-2 game, so you picked your two characters, and in between rounds, you could switch up however you liked, right? It was basically like if you were like a card game analogy, you're sideboarding a character in, right? And you could just pick whenever. The game was very poorly received back in the day, to say the least. The only positive thing I can even remember, honestly, is everyone dug the dinosaur. There's a character from Red Earth, because it was like kind of like, multi-game crossover deal. Character called Hauser, giant T-Rex dinosaur. He was pretty cool. There was also Street Fighter Cross Tekken, another tag-based 2D fighting game. And, hey, if you don't know your history, also very poorly received in the end. Kinda considered a flop for a lot of reasons, not just the tag stuff. There was a whole gem controversy and all that. You know what? By version 2013, the update, the game actually got pretty good. I'm not going to say it was like the best game of all time, but it was a very playable game. and a lot better than a lot of people gave it credit for, and also very early example of rollback netcode, even though it wasn't great rollback, but it still had at least, right? But yeah, so there was 2 examples of Capcom quote-unquote mainline fighting games that tried the whole tag team stuff, the whole team concept outside of Marvel, and they definitely did not work out. So all that said, I can definitely see why the vision of this team concept for whatever Street Fighter 6 was going to be not pan out, because it's been done before and it has failed before, and Street Fighter very much known as like, hey, this is a one-on-one game, and it just seems really weird to mess with the formula like that. I don't know if it was like an esports driven idea, you know, being a team game, then you can have multiple players play different characters on a team. I think Street Fighter League worked something like that with their team-based setup. But yeah, maybe it was some weird esports influenced idea. I am not sure. But whatever it is, if that was the case, it's definitely not happening anymore. And with that said, then hey, if you're scrapping a core mechanic like that was apparently intended to be, then yeah, you need to rework a lot of stuff, and that costs time, that costs money. And if you had a release date set on top of all the issues with COVID, then that definitely just really puts a really bad monkey wrench in that whole plan. And with that, then I guess we have the birth of Street Fighter V Season 5, both as a final cap off to the game. You know, for good or for ill, Street Fighter V has left its mark, right? I think it's a much better game now than a lot of the ills it had back in launch time, to be sure. But yeah, so we get our final cap off, and we get more time to buy for Street Fighter 6 to be the game it needs to be. As the leak says here, it was originally scheduled for 2021, which, you know, lines up with a lot of what I suspected. However, now it'll be 2022, and Street Fighter V is what will be carrying us through all of 2021 as other fighting games rise up to take its place. As we have Guilty Gear Strive launching, we'll have King of Fighters 15 showing up at some point. We will have a Season 4 of Tekken 7. And who knows even what else, right? Maybe League of Legends Project L will finally show up, right? So Street Fighter 6, instead of taking on these newcomers head on, they will have a head start into the new generation, the PlayStation 5, Xbox One Series X generation. And with all that said, that is the news as it currently stands. Once again, it makes sense Street Fighter V Season 5 was kind of the buy time for something, although hearing there were so many issues with Street Fighter 6 development is a little disheartening, although apparently it is in a better place now. And with that said, the whole team concept, would you dig it? Is that something you would look forward to in a mainline Street Fighter game? Hey, well, let me know in the comments below. Definitely a very interesting peek into an industry we don't get too much insight into, as Japanese developers tend to be very tight-lipped on a lot of stuff. And with all that said, my friends, that is the end of this video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. Go out and play some fighting games.